Hi everyone, thank you for clicking on to this link. It's just a little reflection for the first Sunday of Lent, this coming weekend. God's peace, God's compassion and God's light be with you. That is my prayer, that you may know God right alongside you right now, because that's the truth of it. God is alongside you right now. Christ in the wilderness, the first Sunday of Lent, Jesus in the desert, where the wild things are. A few years ago, I spent the days just before Lent in a monastery that I love very much, and I had some time with stillness, and all the meals were just done for me. I could walk in the beautiful monastery grounds and talk to the brothers, and then the worship was this beautiful, beautiful plain chant in the chapel, and just spending time with people who are channels of healing and light. And when I got back late at night, I realised that I'd forgotten to change the answer phone message on my telephone. And so it was just going nuclear, this flashing, angry red light of the zillion messages. Where are you? Where are you? Why are you not responding to my call? Have you forgotten this? And so I thought to myself, well, Father Chris, fellow priest in our parish, Father Chris, I'm sure he would like some quality time with all of that. He's dead holy and very good at this sort of thing, and I'll just head back to the monastery. But I couldn't, because I knew that the same spirit which had led me to the still and restorative space of the monastery was the same spirit now driving me back to this, to work, to the wilder place. In the gospel reading that we have, it includes the part about Jesus' baptism, this amazing, mystical, revelatory, epiphanic encounter Jesus has at the River Jordan, where he is affirmed and blessed by the Father. And then straight after this, he's driven out by the Spirit into the wilderness. Israel, the country, is a very thin strip of land between the sea and the desert. It's called the Promised Land, and if you live there in the Promised Land, you live right next to wilderness. So in Israel, promise and wilderness are side by side. And in the Bible, people are forever crossing back and forth between them, the promise and the wilderness. You live with this interaction of promise and wilderness. And that's what all of us do all of the time in life. We crisscross between the promised place and the desert, going back and forth, sometimes several times in the same day. Right next to the weekend is the cold light of Monday. Right next to the calm is the chaos. In church, right next to baptisms and celebrations are death and funerals. And they're kind of side by side. And all the way through the Bible, there's this same proximity. So you have, blessings and celebrations, and then you have death and exile and suffering and wilderness. Promised Land and the wild place live right next to each other, and we just crisscross all the time. And you see it in our gospel today, Jesus' work of healing and teaching, beginning with his baptism, takes place at the River Jordan, this ancient crossing point, the liminal space between promise and desert, and that experience of affirmation and love, the Father says, "This is my beloved Son." And right after this experience, Jesus is driven into the wilderness. The same Spirit who descends upon him in the Jordan River is the same Spirit now leading him out into the desert. Where is God most present to us? In the consolation or in the desolation? Is it in the quiet places, the moments of good health and calm? Is that when God is closest to us? And like when we get sick or lose our job, or when we screw things up, or when we have a blazing row, is God like, I'm out of here, bye-bye? Is God further away from us then? Is that how it works? Was I closer to God in the monastery and further away next to that answer machine in the chaos? No. No. In both places, God was equally present to me. In the promised place and in the wild place. There is no place where you are not intimately connected to God. You cannot not be in God's presence. That presence sort of circles all that you are. It holds all that you are. The calm and the chaos. Now, in some places, it's easier to become aware of this truth. But wherever you are, God is totally present to you. It's just that some things in life give us the illusion that he's gone away. But that's what it is. It's the illusion of isolation. It's an illusion. It's a lie. And we believe the lie. And we believe what the demons tell us when we're in the desert place. You know, the desert place, the place where you feel most alone, where you feel most unwanted, most unloved, where hope just seems to fly away. And we believe everything that the desert tells us then. But the desert actually is trying to tell us something else. The desert's trying to tell us that it's in times of those desolation that God's heart just is beating for you. That God is drawn to you in a special way in your poverty and your need. So when you feel that, the truth of it, when you feel the pain and the desolation, that's a way the Spirit is saying to you, I'm here in a very special way. How does life feel for you right now? Hasn't COVID felt like one long desert? Burn you in the daytime, freeze you at night, freezing you at night. Well, if that's how you feel, then know that Christ is totally present to you in your wilderness, and he does not go away. God does not know how to be absent to you. And maybe it's like only the desert that can teach us that. Maybe it's only in the desert that we can really truly learn to trust in the everywhere presence of God. I'm sure you know the story. There's this guy who looks back with God at his life, and he sees two sets of footprints in the sand. His footprints and God's footprints, side by side. But during the most bitter times in his life, the man sees only one set of footprints. So he says to God, hey, how come you let me walk alone during those times? And God says, my child, how could you think that? Not for 1 second. Were you ever alone? I was always with you. It's just that during those hard times, those really crazy times, I thought it would be better if we hopped, if we just started hopping. That's why there's only one set of footprints during the really mad times. We were just hopping together. You know the story. God says, I didn't leave you. During those hard times, with only one set of footprints, because I was dragging you. I was carrying you. Christ in the desert, with the wild beasts, and, says our gospel, the angels. God's peace be with you.